Somewhere in Norway, in a house that has not been renovated since the 1970s, an elderly woman is completely warm. Outside, it is -12. She has not touched her thermostat in 3 days. Her heating bill, by modern standards, is almost embarrassingly low. And the thing keeping her comfortable is not a smart home system. It is not underfloor heating. It is not triple glazed windows or some expensive insulation retrofit. It is a piece of thick wool fabric hung in the right place. Modern homes are, by almost every measurable standard, better insulated than they have ever been, better sealed, better equipped. And yet, heating costs across much of the Western world have climbed steadily for decades. People run their thermostats higher. They heat rooms they do not use. They warm entire floors just to sit in one corner of one room. Somewhere between modern convenience and modern comfort, something got quietly, expensively lost. Scandinavia is one of the coldest inhabited regions on Earth. For most of its history, it had none of the tools modern people assume are necessary for winter comfort. No central heating until well into the 20th century. No programmable thermostats. No heated bathroom floors. What Scandinavian households had instead was something quieter, something more deliberate. They understood where heat goes, and more importantly, where it does not have to. The average home loses a significant portion of its warmth, not through walls or rooftops, but through gaps, drafts, and uninsulated surfaces that people stop noticing because they have always been there. A cold floor, a drafty door frame, a window that fogs at the edges every winter morning. In traditional Scandinavian homes, these were not accepted as normal. They were treated as problems, practical ones, solvable ones, and the solutions cost almost nothing. Heavy curtains, called Gardener in Norwegian, weren't decorative. They were functional. Hung floor to ceiling, pulled closed at dusk, they created an insulating air pocket between the cold window glass and the living room. A simple layer of fabric doing quiet, consistent thermal work all night long. Draft excluders along door bottoms. Thick woven rugs over stone and wood floors. Textile-lined internal doors in older farmhouses. None of these required a contractor. None required a permit. Most could be assembled from materials already in the home. This is the part that's easy to miss. Traditional Scandinavian comfort wasn't expensive. It was layered. It worked the way their clothing worked, with multiple thin or thick layers trapping warmth between them. Each layer doing a small job, so no single system had to do everything. Modern homes tend to do the opposite. One system, one thermostat, one answer to every temperature problem in every room at every hour of the day. It's efficient in theory. In practice, it's often expensive, inflexible, and oddly unsatisfying. There is something worth sitting with here. Generations of Scandinavian families kept themselves genuinely comfortable through some of the harshest winters in Europe, not by spending more, but by thinking more carefully about how warmth actually moves through a home. That distinction matters, because it suggests the problem was never really the cold. It was the assumption that comfort had to be purchased at scale to be real. There is a concept in Scandinavian domestic culture that does not translate cleanly into English. Hygge is the word most people know, but underneath hygge, beneath the candles and the blankets and the aesthetic, there is something more structural, more practical. The idea that a home should feel contained. Not small, not cramped. Contained, as in deliberately managed. As in, heat should stay where people are. Light should gather where people sit. Warmth should not bleed into empty rooms or disappear through walls that nobody thought to address. This was not philosophy. It was engineering. Just the quiet, domestic kind. In older Scandinavian and Northern European homes, rooms were often smaller than modern open-plan spaces. Not because of poverty, because smaller rooms hold heat. A closed door between the kitchen and the hallway is not unfriendly, it is functional. It keeps the warmth generated by cooking inside the space where people spend their evenings. Modern homes knocked those walls down. Open plan became a symbol of luxury, of airiness, of space. What it also became, quietly, was thermally inefficient. Heating an open-plan living space requires significantly more energy than heating a series of contained rooms. The air mixes, the warmth distributes, the thermostat works harder. Nobody framed it as a trade-off, but it was. Traditional Korean homes understood this from a completely different direction. Ondol, the underfloor heating system used in Korea for over 2,000 years, didn't heat the air, it heated the floor. The logic was simple and almost obvious once you hear it. Warm air rises. If you heat from above, or even from the middle of a room, the warmth floats upward toward the ceiling, away from the people sitting and sleeping close to the ground. Heat the floor, and warmth rises through the people using the room. The efficiency difference is real. Modern studies on radiant floor heating consistently show lower energy consumption compared to forced air systems for equivalent comfort levels. The Koreans arrived at that conclusion 2 millennia earlier, not through research, but through careful, accumulated observation. Back in Scandinavia, there was another system almost nobody talks about anymore. Vedoven, the wood-burning tile stove, not an open fireplace, which loses the majority of its heat up the chimney. A tall, enclosed ceramic or soapstone stove, designed to absorb heat slowly during burning and release it steadily for hours afterward. A well-built tile stove, fired twice a day, could heat a room for 24 hours on a surprisingly small amount of wood. The thermal mass of the stone absorbed the intense heat of combustion. Then it gave it back slowly, gently, long after the fire itself had gone out. It wasn't dramatic. It was disciplined. And discipline, in this context, meant spending considerably less on fuel while remaining consistently warm. There's a quiet pattern emerging across all of these systems. Traditional cultures didn't try to overpower the cold. They didn't attempt to brute force comfort with raw energy expenditure. They studied how heat behaved, how it moved, where it gathered, and where it escaped. And they designed their homes, their furniture, their daily routines around that understanding. The $18 mentioned at the beginning of this video, that's roughly the modern cost of a pair of heavy thermal curtains. The same basic intervention Scandinavian households have used for generations to reduce window heat loss overnight. A single pair, properly hung, covering a standard window floor to ceiling, can meaningfully reduce the cold radiating into a room on winter nights. Not dramatically, not miraculously, but consistently, night after night, winter after winter. That consistency is the part modern life tends to undervalue. We've become accustomed to solutions that are immediate, large-scale, and expensive. A new boiler, a smart thermostat, a full insulation retrofit. Sometimes those investments make sense, but somewhere between those large investments and doing nothing, there is an entire category of small, deliberate, inexpensive interventions that traditional households understood intimately, and that modern life largely forgot to pass on. Here is the thing that quietly sits underneath all of this. Nobody took these systems away. Modern life did not destroy these habits through force. It replaced them with something that simply felt easier. Central heating meant you no longer had to think about where warmth gathered in a room. Cheap energy, for several decades, meant inefficiency had no immediate consequence. The thinking stopped, because it felt like it no longer needed to happen. And then energy prices climbed. Heating bills arrived that genuinely shocked people. Homes designed around the assumption of cheap, abundant warmth suddenly felt expensive to maintain and oddly difficult to make comfortable. The systems had not failed. The assumptions had. What Scandinavian domestic culture understood, and what Korean, Dutch, and traditional Mediterranean households each understood in their own way, is that comfort is not the same as consumption. You can heat an entire floor and still feel the chill rising from an uncovered stone floor in the morning. Real comfort is specific. It happens where people actually are, not across a square footage that a thermostat cannot distinguish from rooms nobody entered that day. The practical lesson is almost frustratingly simple. Find where heat escapes your home at night. A cold window, a gap under a door, a floor that pulls warmth away the moment you step on it. Address those points with the least expensive intervention that works. Heavy curtains on cold-facing windows, a draft excluder along an exterior door, a thick rug in the room where you spend your evenings. None of this requires a contractor. Most costs less than a single dinner out. Traditional households looked at the same problem modern people overspend on and found the smallest effective answer. Not because they lacked ambition, because they respected the problem enough to understand it before spending money on it. That instinct is perhaps the most valuable thing these cultures quietly left behind. If this made you think of a forgotten system from your own home or culture, share it below. And if this kind of story is what you're looking for,